Google Analytics dashboards like a boss. My name is Glenn Fajardo, and I work for TechSoup in San Francisco. TechSoup helps nonprofits around the world use technology more effectively in order to increase their impact. And TechSoup itself is also a nonprofit. You'll notice to the right of the video window, there is a chat. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat at any time. I'd like to introduce our instructor for today, Jack Downs from Whole Whale. He hails from Oklahoma City and likes to use data and creativity to maximize impact. He also enjoys live music and running. Welcome, Jack, and over to you.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Glenn. My name is Jack Downs, and I'm the digital As Glenn said, today we'll be talking about building a data culture using dashboards and Google Analytics. Just a reminder, my name is Jack Downs, and my colleague Meredith will be in the chats answering questions. And we both work for Whole Whale, a digital agency that leverages web data and technology to increase the impact of nonprofits. And today we'll be helping you leverage your own data and Google Analytics with dashboards. So just for a general overview, we'll look at what dashboards are, talk about importing ready-made dashboards directly from Google Solutions Gallery, which is a great tool, sharing data within your team by automating dashboards for automatic delivery. And then we'll look at a case study and get on platform within Google Analytics to kind of tease out each of these things in real time. And then, of course, at the end, we'll have plenty of time for questions so that your questions can be answered. So what are dashboards? Dashboards are highly customizable reports that make the sharing and digesting of data super easy. You could have up to 12 widgets or data points within any given dashboard, and they make arranging data around a specific topic super easy. You could have up to 20 dashboards too in each Google Analytics view, which unlike Google Analytics goals, dashboards could be updated, deleted, what have you. So feel free to experiment and don't feel restricted by any limitations in your own Google Analytics view. You could either build dashboards from scratch, or you, as I mentioned, you can import them directly from Google Solutions Gallery. On the right-hand side of the screen, I have just a quick screenshot of what a dashboard we've configured, an executive level dashboard. So this features big picture data that might be of interest to a C-level employee, a president of a nonprofit. And we would recommend scheduling this type of information for regular automatic delivery, maybe 2 or 3 times each month, so that the big picture, how many users are coming to my website, what are they doing exactly on my site, is received at the top levels of your organization automatically and with a minimal amount of effort. Advanced analytics or analysis can be done within dashboards by applying segments too. So if you were interested in seeing how overall traffic compares to maybe organic traffic within this dashboard, segments can be easily added. And we'll look at all of this on platform here in just a second. Google Solutions Gallery, as I mentioned, it's a great space where users can upload and share assets that they've built in Google Analytics. And in turn, you can import those dashboards or other types of assets like custom reports directly into your own Google Analytics account. So if you like an organization's dashboards, you can import those and establish them in your own Google Analytics property with a few clicks. If you don't import directly from Google Solutions Gallery, this window below is what it will look like when you first create a dashboard. So you could either start from scratch or use one of the starter packs from Google, but we would recommend, if you're not going to kind of build from the ground up, looking for a solution that fits your needs within Solutions Gallery. And just for a quick example, Whole Whale has configured a nonprofit dashboard bundle that we've uploaded to Solutions Gallery. And when you click onto the platform, you could use the search bar to look for key terms that might lead you to the dashboards that are right for you. We've added 6 dashboards to this bundle. So those include an overall site traffic, so that's kind of that executive level, mobile, search engine optimization, social media, etc. And with a few clicks, just pressing import, you could add those directly to your dashboard window within Google Analytics, and then begin interacting with the data within those pre-configured dashboards. So super easy, and you could find a lot of interesting ways of approaching a problem and of arranging data around certain verticals of data within Google Analytics. Dashboards, most importantly, can be shared easily with all members of your team. At the top of a given dashboard, after you've configured one, you want to make sure that you are sharing it so that all users with access to your property can, in fact, access this dashboard. And again, I'll show you how to do that on platform. And then that email button just to the right is where you schedule dashboards for automatic delivery. So you could choose frequency, the recipients, and a small message that accompanies the dashboard, and that will be automatically sent by Google Analytics with the latest period of data to those recipients. So we typically recommend scheduling the dashboards we configure for delivery once or twice a month. Granted, this changes based on the type of data that's being shared and the employee who's receiving that information. What regularity are they looking to interact with the data? That's what this looks like in real time or on platform. You have a space to quickly add as many email addresses as you'd like, and then select the frequency. So once, daily, weekly, etc. And then once you have scheduled those dashboards for automatic delivery, you could manage those settings within the admin section of Google Analytics. With underneath the view settings, you could find a tab that says scheduled emails. And if you were to click on it, you can see a list of all the dashboards that are scheduled for automatic delivery and make adjustments as needed. So Google makes it super easy to, one, configure dashboards so that you are isolating the data that is most important to you, and then sharing and managing those automatic emails so that everyone on your team can interact with the data without having to log onto the platform and having some kind of existing skill set within Google Analytics. So this is really a great tool. Types of dashboards. So we've looked at the executive level, kind of big picture dashboard. I would say that that is something that could be relevant for any organization, but you have to ask yourself what parts of the data or what type of data is most relevant for your team. So just a few examples. There is search engine optimization or organic traffic dashboard is something that we typically configure for our clients. If you are spending money in AdWords, or if you have an AdWords grant, configuring a dashboard so that the manager of that account can quickly and easily receive information about how well they're performing. Audience information, so Google Analytics collects great, very useful demographic information that can be uploaded into a dashboard. And you could also include what are the top pages, where are users visiting, what kind of events or goals are they converting in a given session. Social media and traffic, so if you rely heavily on Facebook or Twitter or some combination, you could organize all that data into a social media dashboard and share that with your social team or with your communications team. Site performance is maybe something that is not an obvious thing to include, but if you are someone who is taking steps to make sure that your site is performing quickly and that you are returning few server errors like 404s, then you could aggregate data that is relevant to each of those things within site performance dashboard as well. And then, of course, the limit to the kind of dashboards that you could create is your imagination. So any kind of data or group of questions that you want to be answered can easily be compiled and automated for delivery within a dashboard. Kind of looking at this in practice, I've come up with this case study for Power Poetry, which is the largest online teen poetry community. And they are particularly interested in knowing how many users are engaging with their scholarship program in a given period. So they offer great scholarships for teens who are posting poems to the site to put towards their college education. And they're wondering, are they reaching users? So below, I've listed 4 questions that are especially relevant for those users or for people within Power Poetry organization to gauge the success of the scholarship program. So one might be how many sessions have included views to our scholarship page. So how many people are looking at the actual scholarship page? How old are the visitors to that scholarship page? Are we reaching the right users? Are they student aged? Where are these sessions coming from? So if we're looking to reach users across the United States, are we doing so? And then what sources are sending the most traffic to the scholarship page? So if we are investing in a Facebook campaign, are we seeing those users make their way to the scholarship campaign? Are they converting in the way that we would hope? So with these questions in mind, I will switch into our Google Analytics platform where I've configured a widget for each of those questions within a scholarship's dashboard. And we'll kind of pick apart each of these things so that we could see the back end, how we set up these widgets, etc. So first things first, dashboards are accessed within this customization tab here. And if you click on the dashboards list, you will see a total list of all the dashboards that have been added to your account, whether from Google Solutions Gallery or the configurations that you've done on your own, built from the ground up. You name your dashboard so that any user receiving it automatically knows exactly what they'll be opening when they receive that email. And then you start configuring widgets. So again, you get 12 per dashboard, and you add those here. And widgets can take a number of shapes, and the data could be presented in a number of ways. So for each of these questions, I've taken a slightly different approach. The first would be how many sessions have included views of our scholarship page. So we set up kind of how sessions are changing over time. And if we click into this edit button here, we could see the behind the scenes of this particular widget. So we've set up a timeline and we've named the widget, again, using clear language so that anyone that's automatically receiving this without maybe the context of the problem that comes from working in the actual Google Analytics platform, making sure that the title kind of conveys what they're looking at. Then we choose the metric that we're most interested in. So in this case, it's sessions. And then we filter down the data as necessary. So whenever users visit the scholarship page on Parapoetry, they will have a page view to this specific URL. So Parapoetry Scholarships is the URL that we want to include. So we filter data to only show sessions that include a page view that matches using a regular expression, and then this specific URL. So if you wanted to kind of replicate this for a page that is especially relevant to your own organization or to a group of pages, I would recommend doing page and then regular expression, which kind of captures any URL that includes this slug, and then enter the appropriate URL here. You can add other filters too. So if you wanted to say that only users who are coming from, say, an organic source could be added as well to tailor this data even further. Like I said, we have set up this particular widget as a timeline, but we could look at it as a single metric point or a data point. We could look at the data as a map, as a table too. So using a table, we could add additional metrics to compare across a table, pie charts, and then bar charts as well. We typically will rely on timeline and then table too, and I'll show you why those are especially useful as we kind of work our way through the rest of these widgets. So this is how many sessions have included views of our scholarship page. And I'll just quickly exit out so we see the fluctuation of sessions over time, but we don't get a raw number. So what I might suggest doing would be adding an additional widget that presents this data in a different way. So rather than adding a widget from scratch, we could click back into this already configured widget and simply select clone. So when we clone, we save ourselves some time, especially if there are filters already in place. We replicate all those settings, and then we get the same widget again at the very bottom. And we'll click in here to adjust the way that the data is presented to us. So I think that a raw number of sessions in a given period would be especially useful for Parapoetry. So I'll click the metric standard, widget standard, and press save. And then that adjustment will be made within this widget here. And I'll drag this guy up so that within this set of widgets here, we could see the total number of sessions and then how those are fluctuating over time. So this is immensely more helpful to kind of have a volume and then also kind of trends over time. The next question we wanted to answer was, how old are the visitors to this scholarship page? Particularly, are we reaching the right age group? Are we reaching students? So we could see here we have outlined sessions, organized sessions by age group. So we could see that 18 to 24-year-olds are certainly leading with 233 sessions. This is a good indicator that parapoetry is on track in terms of reaching college-age students who are looking to receive or apply for these kinds of scholarships. And then I've also added a pages per session metric here. So this is just, for those of you already familiar with Google Analytics, this is a great measure of user engagement on site. So it says how many pages are users visiting on site in a given session. And so if this number is high, it's a strong indicator that that user is, or that group of users is especially interested in all the content on your site and arrived on this particular scholarship page with a familiarity with your brand and a real interest in applying for the scholarship. So what this looks like on the back end, again, we'll click here to edit. And I've selected table, again, adding a very clear widget title. I've selected the metric here that I want to organize the table by, so age, and then you can adjust these as best suits the data you're interested in. So I, again, have said sessions and pages per session, and then that exact filter is in place too, so that we're capturing users who visited parapoetry scholarships as a part of their session. Moving on, where are these sessions coming from? So I've taken the same widget here and I've cloned it and then adjusted the type of widget to be a map. And we'll click into kind of the back end of this too, so you can kind of see what this looks like. Each type requires a new kind of adjustment or offers a new way to tailor the data in a way that is relevant to you. So for the geomap, you choose the region or the area that you want to focus in on for mapping these sessions out over a country or over a state, over a cluster of cities, etc. So here I've set region, and then we want to look at sessions coming from region. And then on Google Analytics, a region is kind of in place of state for the United States when we select that area that we want to drill down into. And again, just like the other widgets, we have that parapoetry scholarship slug included here within the filter for the data. We'll press save, and we could see if I was an employee of parapoetry, I could deduce from this widget that a lot of users are coming from California. This widget particularly is interactive, so just hover to reveal the total number of sessions from the period that you have set. Texas, another one sending a lot of users to the site. And then finally, what sources send the most traffic to the scholarship page? So we are interested in investing in maybe Facebook or some other kind of paid spend to drive users to the scholarship page. In parapoetry's case, they're spending with Google, with AdWords, to drive users to the site. That's what this Google cost per click source medium here indicates. And so we could quickly see in this dashboard that that ad spend is paying off. And again, we've organized this in a table. It should look pretty familiar to, or pretty similar to this widget above. But we could see that, again, we've set source medium and then sessions. And if we wanted to add an additional layer of data, we could do so here, selecting any of these metrics available on Google Analytics. And then again, this filter is applied and we could adjust as necessary. So we'll save and kind of play around with making this dashboard even more useful. So data points, of course, give you a good snapshot of what's going on your site, but applying a date comparison will always give you a sense of how that's changing on your site if you're making progress over time. So just like in Google Analytics, selecting to compare to a previous period or to a custom period can really enhance the usability of this dashboard. So we see here that a percentage change, especially here with Google AdWords. You see almost a 2,000% increase. So this is a strong indicator that a recent AdWords campaign focused around scholarship is driving users to this actual page and is successful in converting users to engaging with and learning more about the scholarships available. And then we could also add a segment. So I touched on this earlier, but seeing it in practice, Google has uploaded a lot of great system segments that are easily applied. And if someone within your team who might be receiving this dashboard isn't familiar with segments, I would certainly suggest that they begin with system rather than configuring them on their own. But if they're interested to know how many users are accessing this page from mobile traffic, and how does that from a mobile device or from a tablet device, and then how does behavior or the data points we have kind of assembled vary from all users to mobile traffic. So we'll apply that segment, and then we'll see an additional layer of data populate within our dashboard. So now we've taken kind of the initial out-of-the-box dashboard and layered on both a comparison of time, of periods, and then also a comparison of segments. So we have month over month and all users versus mobile and tablet traffic. So what was at first just five widgets is now something that is much more dynamic and able to reveal a lot of interesting insights about what exactly is going on your site. And this is something that would be easy for your coworkers who might be receiving this dashboard, or that if you are configuring a dashboard and don't have much experience in Google Analytics, can easily learn to do. You can easily learn to manipulate this data in a way that is most relevant to you and your organization. Just a few aesthetic things. If you want to adjust how widgets are outlined in your dashboard, you could drag and drop widgets across the screen, or you could choose how the layout percentages are distributed. So I typically do 50-50, so that way tables especially have plenty of room to outline the data. But if you want to feature a number of short kind of focused data points, 25, 25, 25, 25 might be a choice for you, and so on. If we wanted to share this with one of my colleagues, then I could select email and then adjust frequency, type a message, and then set the recipients here. And then once I press send, that would be scheduled for automatic delivery then. And I wouldn't have to manually send this information to those colleagues of mine again. And then finally, just one important thing to know. If you configure a dashboard, always make sure to share your object afterwards. So we'll go ahead and share this so that all users in the Google Analytics property or with access to your Google Analytics property can then access it. So we'll let this load. And if we click into dashboards, we could then see, again, our total list of dashboards configured, which are private. So this is the one we configured from scratch. And then we shared it. So this is the dashboard that could be accessed by anyone else with the login information for this specific Google Analytics account. And with that, I will move back into our deck and open up for questions.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Jack. First question is, what dashboard should I build first? And if you can talk about, answer that question and also talk about how you approach sort of the sequence of dashboards that you build.
Sure. So when you're first working in dashboards, you might find that it takes 30 minutes to an hour to really identify the data that you want to assemble in your dashboard and to set up those configurations. As you kind of build that muscle, though, configuring dashboards and determining uses or ways that they could really benefit your organization becomes second nature. So In terms of planning to build out dashboards, I'd say focus on the most important metrics to you first. So if you are someone who relies heavily on social traffic, you run a lot of Facebook campaigns, I might configure a Facebook dashboard or a social media dashboard that aggregates information about how well those campaigns are doing. So I'm thinking total sessions from social channels. I'm thinking goal conversions by social users. I'm thinking sessions divided by different social platforms, etc. So if there is an obvious area within the data that is most relevant, I would say lead with the creation of that specific type of dashboard, so that the value of having that information automated and organized in a easy to access place is conveyed both to you and anyone who might be receiving it. I mentioned, I think that an executive level kind of bird's eye view dashboard can be particularly valuable for all organizations. And actually, I'll move back into analytics so we could kind of see what one of those might look like. So I think that we'll let this particular dashboard load, but again, something that is data that would be relevant to everyone on your team would be something to consider including in, again, one of the first dashboards that you configure. So for Power Poetry, what are the most important indicators of success? It's how many users are generating poems, how many new poets do we have on site, and how does that overall traffic influence kind of the actions that they're taking. So this would be that top level dashboard used internally, and we could see that all the data is pretty 30,000 foot, device category, looking at where users are landing, etc. So data that is not specific to maybe someone with a very specific role within your organization. And again, if your time is limited and you don't know where to start, consider going into Google Solutions Gallery and importing a bundle directly from Solutions Gallery, so that way you can choose what dashboards are most relevant to you or what are most useful to you without really having to take the time to configure each from scratch.
Okay, great. Next question is, can you have dashboards that pull data from multiple views?
So data from multiple views can't be aggregated in a single dashboard, but dashboards can be shared across views. So if you have, for instance, a view that collects data from a specific subdomain, and then a view that aggregates data from maybe two separate subdomains, and that data might look different across the different views, you can apply the dashboard to see raw numbers from each, but you can't pull them in to compare directly within the same view. So I guess the short answer would be no, but dashboards can be applied from view to view as necessary.
Okay, great. Next question is, how does one find someone else's dashboard?
Sure. So we could look at this now. We'll click back into dashboards, and if we are looking to access dashboards configured by someone else, first off, that has to be whether or not you have access to those dashboards is a choice that the creator of that dashboard has made. And if they have decided to upload that dashboard for anyone to download, it will again be in Google Solutions Gallery. And we can look at that in real time. So we'll create a new dashboard. And again, we'll select this option here, import from gallery. And here you just get a quick window of the top performing dashboards. And you could click into each of these to see exactly what you'll be downloading. A shameless plug, I'll look at Whole Whale's nonprofit bundle here. And then you get a quick idea of what is included within this description, and you could see how users have rated or have engaged with this bundle in the past. Then if you press import, you'll see an itemized list of each of these configurations before it is then added to your site. So at the top, you could select the view that you want to import these configurations to, and then a list here. So just to be simple, I'll only import one of these. So we'll import an executive level dashboard, and you could adjust the name. So if we want to get rid of whole whale, we can. And now that has been successfully added. So we go back to our dashboards. We'll let this load. And we can see that this information from your site is now applied to this dashboard. And that whole process took all of 1.5 minutes. So if dashboards are something that you're interested in using internally, but again, you don't have much time to configure, Solutions Gallery really is going to be a lifesaver for you, because it enables that kind of functionality without the knowledge or skills required to maybe build a useful dashboard, or the required time it might take to build out a suite of dashboards that are especially useful for you.
Okay, great. Can dashboard data be pulled from Google Sheets?
So dashboard can be exported as a PDF. Oh, hold on. If the question is, can dashboard data incorporate data from Google Sheets that exist outside of Google Analytics? The answer is no. You're pulling directly from Google Analytics data for dashboards. If you're interested in combining data from Google Analytics and a Google Sheet, however, a Data Studio report, which is a separate tool, which would require a full other webinar to really get into, but that would be an area where you can combine data from different sources, including Google Sheets, and aggregate it in kind of one place.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jack. The next question is, do you have industry standards for some of these data points so that we can gauge whether our performance is good or bad? For example, how do we know whether our pages or session metric is high or not?
Sure. So Google has, when you first configure your account, Google has created a list of different types of organizations that you can opt into sharing your data, and then in turn you can access data from a number of industries so that you can get an idea of what industry standard is. Unfortunately, there's no option that is especially relevant to the social sector or nonprofits. So that data isn't maybe super useful in terms of comparing your own performance or tracking your own performance. We always look at benchmarking against ourselves when tracking performance year over year, especially, and within Power Poetry we can do this now. So if we wanted to see how April 2018 compared to 2017, we can adjust that. Let's see. We can add a year-over-year comparison here, and then apply to see how we're changing over time. And ultimately, this is going to give you a better idea of how well you're doing. This kind of information is also available online, or kind of targets to shoot for. That information can be found with a few Google searches, but it's not aggregated in a useful way by Google, I guess would be the short answer.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jack. Next question is, how do you create a new widget?
Sure. So up here, you select Add Widget. So this is actually a useful demonstration. We've been notified that we have a limit of 12 widgets for this dashboard. We'll go ahead and exit out of this one so that we can configure a new one from scratch. But you just simply can choose this Add Widget button, and then we'll name it something relevant. So maybe pages per session. And then you choose your metric. So in this case, I want to match it. So pages per session. And then add a filter if you need, and then select the type of widget you're interested in including in your data. And then this is kind of an added feature, but if you want to link to another report on Google Analytics or within Google Analytics, you could click to add that here. So pages per session is typically found in the audience report of Google Analytics. So if we say audience overview, that could link the title of this widget to that report, so that if this looked funny to you, if there was a unusual change in pages per session in any given period, you could then click the title to be directed to a place where you could dig a little deeper. So the widget we just configured is at the bottom. When you configure new ones, they are dumped at the bottom left-hand corner, but it's right here. And since we added that hyperlink, if we were to click on this page, it would take us to the audience overview report in here.
Okay, great. The next question is, can you geomap down to the state level?
Yes. So we will adjust one of these widgets so that we could see sessions at the state level. I'll show you guys how to do this. So sessions per, we'll look at sessions within cities within a state. So sessions by city, and I'm from Oklahoma, so we'll do Oklahoma. And then we'll select the geomap. And then this is where you specify what you want to look at. So region region would say that you want to look at compared sessions at the state level. If we're interested in knowing cities within a state, we'll say city. So sessions per city, and then we select a region. So for the United States as our region there, and then we'll add region matches regex, and then Oklahoma. So this should give us sessions for all the cities in Oklahoma plotted on a map. Let's see if this works. Yep, so we were able to plot that data within Oklahoma, but let's see if we could get a little closer. So within the geography report in the audience section, you can engage with this information on the state level. I think that our limitations within the dashboard is that you could look at countries at large. So if you were interested in knowing sessions by city in Oklahoma, geography might not be, or a geomap might not be the best way to present the data. Instead, I would maybe use a table. So it takes that same information and just organizes it in a way that is more useful. So here we could see data points for each city organized in a table rather than kind of in an abstract way within a map.
Okay, great. The next question is, what is the difference between widgets and tracking data through setting a goal in Google Analytics?
Sure. So a widget is any data point, or can be any data point within Google Analytics, and it's just a report in miniature. So you are combining metrics and dimensions and organizing them in a tiny report that Google Analytics calls a widget. So each of these can be replicated within a custom report if you wanted, but this widgets within dashboards are an easy way to kind of combine that data and arrange it in a way that kind of tells a broader story. Widgets can also be goals. So again, we've reached our limit. I'll delete this one so that we can configure a goal-specific widget. So we'll add a new one, and we'll look at goal conversions over time. So goal, you could see all the goals we've configured within the conversions tab. And And let's look for so interested user goal is a goal that we've configured where anytime a user stays on the site longer than 5 minutes, a goal is fired. So we'll add that as the metric that we're interested in tracking. If we wanted to compare this with another goal, we could do that here. But we will save and see what this looks like. So within the last 2 periods, it doesn't look like there's been any kind of goal completions for this specific goal, but if you had a robust goal that was converting regularly, you could see those conversions happening in real time within this widget. So in short, goals are just another data point that can be included into a widget within a dashboard.
Okay, great. Next question is there any way to get more information on organic search words that are, quote, not provided? As that is a huge channel on how our users find us.
Sure. So unfortunately, not providing keywords is information that Google that is proprietary to Google. They likely have access to every keyword that users are using to access your site or to find your site, but they withhold that information for a number of reasons, primarily to motivate users to invest in their AdWords program. So unfortunately, there's nothing that could be done in terms of pinpointing the keywords that we want to, pinpointing the keywords that all users are using to land on your page. Something that we do as kind of a workaround is to organize our organic traffic by landing page. So we can look at that in a dashboard here, or in a widget, excuse me. So if we say page, and then let's see, do landing page, then sessions, and then we filter data that is specifically organic. So we'll do default channel grouping. So this setup, we're going to create a table that features all the landing pages that organic traffic is landing on. So organic landing pages would be an appropriate title. And if we save this and then see it implemented within the dashboard, we can see a list of all the pages that users are landing on directly from Google search or from Bing or from Yahoo, etc. So using clues within this URL, so for example, poetry dictionary, we can conclude or deduce that users were likely searching for keywords that this page might rank for. So for this page here, 5 tips for spoken word, it is likely that users were searching for keywords, maybe spoken word or writing spoken word poetry, etc. So again, it doesn't give you precise data, but this is a way to unlock more information about the volume of users that are finding your site around certain topics. And then with a little imagination, you can come up with the keywords that are most likely being searched for around the broad topic buckets that you are able to identify in your landing pages.
Okay, great. Next question is, what are the real-time widgets versus the standard widgets?
Sure. So we're going to hit our limit again. If we edit this dashboard, we can, or excuse me, this widget, we can see that there are a few options for real-time dashboards or real-time widgets, excuse me. And if you were to click onto this widget and maybe adjust the time frame, you could see users interacting with your site in real time. So this is pulling information from the real-time report that Google includes. So in terms of assessing data over periods of time and making dashboards particularly useful for email delivery, or for someone who doesn't have a whole lot of time to be on the site and kind of track user behavior as it happens in real time, I would always suggest using this first row of data here, the standard configurations, rather than the real time.
Okay. The next question is, what do the percentage listed under each segment, for example, all users, represent?
So the percentage of total will give you an idea of how many users within the parameters that you've set for a given widget, what percentage of the overall number of users on your site do they account for? So here we see that percentage of total users is 100%, since this widget tracks all users on your site. So of course, we would expect that all users matches kind of the unfiltered version of users as well, since we haven't added a filter. We can look for other instances of this kind of byline information from Google. Here we see average session duration. If we were to filter this for organic traffic alone, so looking at the average session duration for users who find your site organically, we could compare that to the average view. So here we see that it is a minute 44 is what organic users are on average spending in a session on powerpoetry.org. And then just below, we see that the average for the view is a minute 46. So again, the importance of benchmarking against yourself. If we see that organic users are likely to stay a little shorter periods of time than the total number of users or the total volume of users, then that is an indicator to us that there is room to optimize our SEO or strategies around organic traffic to drive those users to stay longer on the site. And then it will give you a percentage difference as well.
Okay, great. Next question is, can Google Analytics be used to collect and analyze Facebook and Twitter data?
So you can find data about users that were directed to your site from Facebook or Twitter, but you can't find information about users who, about what those users did on Facebook or on Twitter. So if we wanted to, for example, segment for the number of users who came directly from a Facebook source, whether it be paid or kind of just normal social interaction on Facebook, we can add a filter so that source matches Facebook, regular expression, and save. So in this way, we could see that a certain number of users came from Facebook, and then kind of piggybacking on that, the last question, we see what that percentage is in relation to all users on site. So Power Poetry has a very small percentage of traffic coming from Facebook. So in this way, we could see that these users were on Facebook, they found Power Poetry somewhere on the site, and then we can, through segmentation, identify where they were on the site, what kind of goals did they convert, how long did they stay, etc. But we don't have any more information about their Facebook profile or what they were doing on Facebook before.
Okay, great. And staying on the topic of social media, what kind of widgets would you add to a social media dashboard?
Sure. So let's see what's organized in this social media dashboard. Again, just overall traffic from social specific sources is particularly valuable. And then sessions coming from those users. So this is from all sessions, all social sessions, or excuse me, this is sessions throughout the site, and then we can kind of parse out how many of those users came from these different social sources. So Facebook is the leading source of traffic here. And then we've added an additional metric to see how long those users are staying as well. So for the question, what should I be tracking? I would include information around goal conversions for sure, information that teases out what social networks are having the most success in terms of sending both the volume and quality of traffic. So Facebook here is, again, sending the most sessions, the most people to the site, and it also has a pretty competitive bounce rate. So for those who don't know, bounce rate tracks the number of users or the percentage of users who land on your site, determine that it's maybe not for them, and bounce without taking any kind of meaningful action. So this is relatively small. Bounce rate is typically around this area. So this is good. And as we're comparing it to, say, an Instagram or to Stumble Upon, we see that there is more value in investing in Facebook, since for at least the users who are visiting our site now, they are far likelier to stay and make some kind of meaningful engagement with the site than, say, someone from Instagram or Weebly. I think that landing pages also would be an important thing to include. And then time of day. So if you are launching a Facebook campaign, information around when users are most active on site can be useful in terms of determining when you should publish a campaign or push a campaign live. You could also adjust this, so rather than time of day, it gives you day of week. And if you find that users are visiting Facebook or streaming to your site from Facebook most often on Tuesdays, then that will give you valuable information around when you should be launching campaigns or what time of day you should be posting, etc.
Okay, great. Just a couple more questions. One is, if I make a dashboard, can my colleagues see it? And if so, do they need Google Analytics in order to access it?
If you make a dashboard, the default setting is that that dashboard is private to you. But if you want someone else with a login to that specific Google Analytics account to be able to access and engage with the dashboard and to even edit the dashboard, you click to share and then say share object, and that will make this dashboard accessible. And once an object is shared, once this dashboard is shared, this item will go away, this option will go away. So if you're unsure whether or not it's shared, you could either access that information in kind of the dashboards list or from this drop-down menu. If you want to share it automatically without those users needing to log on to Google Analytics, you could share this dashboard as a PDF, again, using the email function here. So for the time period that you set, you can send a PDF of all this information, all this data, directly to that user without them, one, requiring login information to Google Analytics, or without them having to log on the platform and engage with it kind of as you see it now.
Okay, great. Next question is, can you please talk through the filter options in that drop-down menu when creating a widget? I'm referring to the drop-down he chose when creating the widget to measure referrals from Facebook.
Sure. So we can apply a filter to this widget here. And we'll create any filters that we're interested in adding and filter this data. And then you have the ability to filter by really any number of parameters. So I think the most useful is likely going to be source medium, which is helps you determine what sources are sending users directly to your site. But as I'm just scrolling through this, you might find something else that kind of piques your interest. Again, region. So if you're interested in traffic that's only coming from, say, California, you could apply that filter. You can filter by social network. But as I said, we typically will do source medium so that we know exactly what we're searching for, rather than rely on something like social network that is defined by Google Analytics. So for Facebook specifically, we'll select source. And we'll say that to only show source, And then again, I usually say regular expression, but these are also valid options. And then we'll add Facebook as our parameter. So we're saying only show traffic from the source or sessions from the source that is equal to Facebook. And if you wanted to exclude filter from Facebook, you could toggle to don't show. So we'll apply this, and then we'll see this number drop. So this now has Facebook source filter applied, and we could see, again, this useful sub piece of information here, which gives you the percentage of total. So we know that Facebook sessions for this period represents just 0.35% of overall traffic.
Okay, great. And last question, and we only have like a couple minutes, Jack, so we'll need a quick answer on this one. If you are getting spam sources and you don't want that data to appear, how can you eliminate them in the sources?
Spam sources. So if you want to eliminate that traffic from showing up in a widget, you can apply a filter for those specific sources within this table here. So if we wanted to exclude a source, if we wanted to exclude, say, Facebook Monster, let's say Facebook Monster was a source of spam traffic, you could say don't show, and then that would exclude all traffic coming from this spammy source within this widget specifically. If you wanted to exclude that traffic from Google Analytics altogether, I would look at creating a filter or going into channel settings and resorting how traffic is organized on your site. There are a lot of resources on how to do those specific things online, and we could maybe share something useful for you within kind of our follow-up email.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jack. If you can go ahead and turn off your screen share
Sure.
for now, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for Google Analytics 102. I'd like to remind everyone that we do have a Google Analytics 202 class that will be available shortly. It's about using analytics to answer who's on my website, featuring Jack and his colleague Allison, and it dives deeper into segmentation, cohort analysis, and will include activities and exercises. So definitely check that out. We also ask that you please fill in the evaluation for the 102 course inside the course. You'll see it kind of towards the bottom. Your feedback is really critical to helping us improve courses for you in the future, and to make sure that it's useful and on point for what you need. I'd like to thank Jack once again for being such a great expert today. Thanks so much, Jack. That was really fantastic. And I'd also like to thank his colleagues Meredith and Allison, who've been answering questions on the chat. I'd like to thank Susan, my colleague, who's also been answering questions on the chat. It takes a team approach to bring this to you, and everybody's contributions are really, really, really valued. So once again, thank you for joining us in Google Analytics 102. The recording for this course will be available, so feel free to access it later. And please fill out that evaluation. And we hope to see you again on TechSoup courses soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.